Let's talk about longevity. So this turbine technology has an amazing feature to it that is in its longevity. We've done simulations that show that it can last up to 25 years without any maintenance. And here's the reason why. First off, the whole jet sequence lifts the whole thing in its operation off the bearings. So the bearings don't have any pressure on them except for radial torque. Now, there is no radial torque if you're going direct to a shaft. The only time you have radial torque is when you go from pulley to pulley. And even then, without the air bearing, which lifts the whole turbine off of the bearings, you've got the way that the jet configuration into the scallops works is there's so much meat there that there's no way for it to wear down. There's nothing, there's no blades, there's no thin edges. It's a highly developed scallop that allows for the air to swirl inside that scallop, which is where the energy is extracted. So there's no thin edges, there's no sharp edges. Well, there's one sharp edge, but it's a sharp edge on the edge of the scallops. And the way that the jet enters into it at such an angle, it doesn't cause any wear. We've shown that the turbine, again, will last for about 25 years without any overhaul maintenance. Now, that doesn't mean that bearings can't fail, because they can. That doesn't mean that the jet ring won't fail. It can. It just means it's unlikely that for a 25-year period, anything on there is going to fail. Because it has such limited moving parts. All it's got is, for the moving part, is the jet, or is the rotor. And the rotor is what carries all of the energy. Now that's another key aspect that I want to point out. That rotor can be designed to be a flywheel, meaning you can have mass, 26, 36 pounds of flywheel mass in that 10-inch rotor. And I've shown this in a video that I did previously where I spun a same size turbine, 1-to-1 ratio. It's a 10-inch turbine spinning a 10-inch flywheel that was 26 pounds. And the amount of energy was 5,000 newtons of energy when it got up to speed. So you can imagine that if you've got a single rotor that's got a jet going to it, or a bunch of jets going to it, and it gets up to 1,200 RPMs or 12,000 RPMs, the higher the RPMs, the more Newton force that's going to be applied. But because of that configuration, there's nothing to wear. There's no metal-to-metal contact. It's a giant air bearing, and it makes it so wonderful because the manufacturing of it is 10% of a normal turbine for the same size or the same power output for the turbine. So a 55 millimeter turbine is estimated to put out 1 kilowatt. You can't build a 55 millimeter turbine bladed that can put out 1 kilowatt. It just won't happen because the efficiency gets so low that you can't get that much energy out of those smaller blades. And you've got the surface area and the trailing in off the blades that makes all the difference for the way that the energy comes. The energy is extracted from the lift on the blades. So again, I'm going to reiterate, 25 years without any major overhauls or any maintenance whatsoever. That is 80,000 hours, I believe. The other characteristic of the turbine that I love is, again, that air bearing effect. The way that it lifts it off the bearings and makes it float in mid-air. And I show this in another video called the anti-rotational test. Basically, it shows a turbine that has a bearing on one side, and the rotor actually sits at an angle on the turbine jet ring. And when I fire it up, it lifts it off of it and it spins like crazy because it's riding on that air bearing. Again, let's go to cost of manufacture. 10% of the same cost for a turbine, for a bladed turbine, without any of the wear characteristics. This means that I could put all of the material costs into the material itself. So the flywheel itself, which is also the rotor, can be a mass of aluminum, stainless steel, phenolic. I can actually, because of the wear characteristics or lack of wear characteristics of this turbine, I did the 10-inch turbine that you'll see in those tabletop 10-inch turbines. They were all phenolic rotors. That means that I can make it literally out of plastic. And it doesn't affect the performance whatsoever. In fact, it enhances the performance. The wonderfulness of the manufacturing means that I can mass produce these very quickly and get them out to distribution for any investor. I would like to see the mass distribution for residential as fast as possible, but unfortunately there's going to be some complications with legislation and the way that, because PG&E or the power companies have designated that if you develop your own power because of solar plant panels, if you develop your own power, you're your own power station. That's why they require a PPA. You've got to be able to sell the power back. But with this, you don't want to sell it back. You want to use it on demand when the grid is under load. If the grid gets up to 98%, you turn on a bunch of these and you don't have to fire up another turbine. The power usage goes down for the grid and the usage goes up. It's fantastic. All right, I'm going to call this video. It's done. Let's try something new before I sign off. For any of you that are interested in personally talking to me, my phone number is 279-977-8094. You can reach me at Brian, B-R-I-A-N, at Turbine, TRUEBINE.com. And I have a website that explains a lot of and shows some of the aspects of the turbine and the application for data centers and whatnot. And it's www.turbine, TRUEBINE.com. Now, if any of you are curious, let me explain to you where turbine comes from. So it's a true turbine. It's a replacement to bladed turbines. A true replacement. It completely replaces anything that has a blade. The term turbine came to me one day when I was thinking about a verse from the Bible. I don't know the verse exactly, but basically the verse is, and it's actually a chapter, and it explains about what's called a true vine. A true vine is the Word of God throughout a knowledge in a vine. And that knowledge is the true vine, or knowledge of God. So this has that magnitude of development and consistency and manufacturability and longevity that makes it a true vine technology. So there you have it. Thank you and have a nice day.